Hello guys, this is Justin McGullen and welcome back to JDM Professionals. Now if you saw my last video, I basically talked about my experience of Queens County Farm in the fall. I did say that my winter session with the farm was gonna end at March, and then I would make a video about that. It's been half a month since I finished the winter session. So let's talk about that. Now, before I talked about the programs, the winter was a bit different for me. Like for the fall, there was a lot of events going on. I basically was working there every day. But the winter, it was not the case, since we only did the programs indoors, and we have a lot of staff there. So because of that, we basically just only show up when we're asked to be there. So I wasn't working there every day, which was unfortunate. But of course, you got to do what you got to do there. But of course, there's been a lot that was going on. So for the winter, it started in November. Why November and not December? I have no clue, but it started in November and it ended in March, so it's definitely a bit of a while there. So, of course, we have interesting classes, so let's talk about the different classes. There were 3 different types of classes that happened during the winter session. The first one, which I spent most of the winter helping out with, was the farm fibers. We basically talked about the sheeps and the wools and how to make fabrics, and we talked about clothing as well. So we basically just sheared the sheep and then just and then clean the wool, and then we just basically like sort it together into pieces so it separates. And then we use a drop spindle to go around it to make it a yarn, and then we did weaving around, and that is how fabrics are made there, which is really interesting. Now of course, in the beginning we just talked about the program itself. After we had a slideshow, we basically had the activities. We always have like 4 stations. The first one was weaving, so like we pick a piece of yarn and just go around and all that. The second activity was carding. It's like we have those things that you just put the piece of wool on and then scrape it to make the wool flat and spread out and all that. The third station, which I would usually spend time on, was the memory matching game, which we basically have different jars of fabrics, and we have photos of different types of yarn, because there are some fabrics that we made for plants, like as we know for sheep, there's like white, black, gray, and all brown and all that. But if people wanted other colors, they have some sort of plants such as marigold, pokeberry, a lot of that, and they use it to make different types of colors and dyes. So some classes got some, others didn't, and few got every single one of them right. So that one was interesting there. Now the last station, which barely is shown, is the drop spindles. It's like we have this drop thing, we have some string around, we just attach the wool together and just spin it around to make it to a yarn. And of course we barely use that because it's usually difficult and hard. Now besides those stations, there are different activities depending on the grades. Like for the schools below grade 3, we basically had them create sheep puppets. Like we had the sheep's head and the mouth, we put it in a paper bag and use some wool to make a sheep puppet. But for the schools grades 3 and up, we made some bookmarks. So we take a piece of yarn and we just go around also like weaving. It was really fun. And after we do that, we take them out to the farm for farm tour and all that. Now that's the majority of time I spend in the winter, and it was fun there. The second program that we did was the quilting lab. We basically had the day talking about quilts, how they're made, the history of quilting, and how it can tell stories and all of that. And after we finished talking about a PowerPoint, we basically had the students make quilts. They make the design for their own quilts, which is really cool. Now that class, I spend the least doing. Like, it's only a few times that I did, but of course it's really fun, and the quiltings we show them, they're really nice. And of course, after that, we had a farm tour. The third program we had on the winter was 18th century cooking. It basically talks about the history of the farm, life living in Queens in 1772. We told the story of the third generation Dutch farming family. Like, the students learned about the agricultural past in New York City, and they learned how to cook. And not just cook, but cook the way people cook in the 18th century. Now that's really fun. Unfortunately, I didn't get to do the 18th century cooking once. And it's a shame, because it involves history, which, if you know me very well, is my favorite subject, something I'm good at. And also, it's talking about cooking for the 18th century, which is awesome. And the fact that I spent all that time not be able to do the 18th century cooking once, it's just disappointing. So the locations are usually the same. Like, the farm fibers, we have it in the barn. The quilting lab, we do it in the Ed building. And the 18th century cooking, we did it inside the farmhouse. So it's pretty much three things that we did. So not a lot of options, but we had a lot of time to do that. Like, there's some interesting stories that I gotta say there. It's like one time when we were doing the quilting lab, it was a college class and all that. So we had people in and we're talking, but while we were doing the class, there was a photographer that was with the school. He was basically filming the program, and he was making a documentary for the arts class and all that. And I thought it was really, really cool. Like, I keep looking back at the school, and I still haven't found the documentary. So, to that school that has the documentary, please comment down below with the link so that I can see it, because I really want to see that video and documentary. And another funny story was that during the farm fibers class, there was me and one other educator that started a few days after I started in October. It's like we were getting the schools out of the buses and all of that. So while we were waiting to start, one of the kids gave one of my coworkers a hug. Of course, she was very, very, very happy and all of that. Okay, so and I was doing the touring, and all that, and I was back at the barn, having people get their stuff and all that. And while we were waiting, several kids from my group came and hugged me and all that. It's like, I told my coworker about that, and to this day, she is salty that I got more hugs than she did. And if that wasn't funny enough, like, I sent my group back to the buses, or her group was getting off the hayride and all that. So I thought, okay, I might as well go to her and help her out. And then one of the students, as students, was getting off the tractor, and and they're like, "Let's listen to Miss Justin." Miss Justin. It's like, why? I'm a dude, man. It's like that was definitely funny, and of course that coworker teased me. Oh, that. And of course, I teased her back, saying "Misters." That was a funny moment there. I'm pretty sure there were other interesting moments, but those were the only ones I can think of. So that's pretty much it for the winter classes. But there's more things that happen outside of work, like so like the winter came along, and during the winter, like when Christmas time came along, the farm was selling Christmas trees and wreaths and holiday stuff. And for me, it was an advantage, because for the employees, they basically get 30% off of trees, wreaths, and Christmas stuff. So I was very excited, so much so that I told my mom, "Hey, let's go look at the Christmas trees at the farm." So we did went to the farm one time, and we were looking at the trees and all of that. Like, trees cost like around $90, and mom didn't want to get it. Like, I offered to contact my boss and ask if they had a discount, because back at that time I didn't know there was a discount. But mom is like, let's just go get a tree near us. So we left, and the tree that we got was I think it was $80 or over $100. So after that, so after we got the tree, after I asked, it took a few hours, but I heard back from my boss telling me about the discount. So pretty much, if I knew about the discount, we'd be getting $60 for a tree instead of a lot more. So it's like we would have saved more money there. I basically told my mom, "I told you, you should have let me talk to my boss and ask." I mean, of course, it was already too late, but it is what it is. But now that I have that, I offered to bring my family a wreath. So of course I looked around, and I got a wreath for 30% off. And it was really good. Like, the wreath looked super nice, and we put decorations around that. Like I said in the last video, when I was working on near Halloween, and I will say it again, working at the farm has its benefits. Now, speaking of events, there was one event that I went to, of course, with Emily again, and it happens to be on Christmas Eve, because it's like a few weeks after the winter started. I was walking, and I saw there were a lot of stuff put up near the parking lot, and I was wondering what was going on. It turns out that what was there was part of a lantern festival. So it looked cool. So when Christmas Eve came along, I basically offered Emily to come with me to the farm to do that. Now, as I mentioned, I got the event for free because I worked there, and surprisingly, they gave Emily a free ticket as well. It was like, you didn't need to do that. I was only asking for a free ticket for me, not for both of us. But of course, my boss didn't mind, so we both got there for free, which is really cool there. So it was at a night time, and it was super, super cold. So Emily and I went there, and let me tell you, it was beautiful. There was a lot of animals, a lot of buildings, and there's so much like it was so amazing. We only got there a short time because it was too cold and all of that. So we looked around, and then we left, and then we had dinner nearby, and then after that we went to the Rockefeller Center for the Christmas tree, which was really fun. A definitely good, perfect way for me to spend Christmas Eve, especially since on Christmas Day I got infected with COVID, which ruined my holiday plans. Thankfully, Emily did not get infected, so I was at least happy about that. But definitely a bizarre way to end 2022, especially if the year was already not so good for me there. But that is it. That is pretty much Queens County Farm in the winter. Now, when I first started working at the farm, when I signed up, it at first it said the fall and the winter. So at first I thought that once I finished in March, then I was done with the farm and I need to look for other employment. But while I was working in the winter, basically got an email asking for people's availability for the spring. So good news. I get to return to the farm to work for the spring. And that's really good. I'm really excited about the spring because with the spring and all that, we get to use outdoors, which likely means I get to go back working every day again. Now of course, the first few weeks I haven't done that yet because 1 week was shorter because of the holidays, the one because of the Easter, because of current right now spring break, and then next week is because there was no school for one day and one school for the other. But hopefully I'll eventually go back to working every day again. But either way, I'm excited. I'm excited for the spring, and I can't wait to do some things for the spring there. But until I finish the spring, I hope you enjoyed the summary about Queens County Farm in the winter. Now we are hiring more educators for the farm. We're helping it grow and all that. So if you're interested in working as an educator, you'll be able to apply at queensfarm.org. And if you do apply and do work for the farm, I hope we get to work with you and all that, because I know we definitely have some more educators now. And also we have a lot of events going on, and we basically have more classes coming in. So if you're interested in bringing your school to the farm for the events, sign up at queensfarm.org. It's like there's a lot going on, and I can't wait to do more of the farm there. But so that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. This has been Justin McGolan. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you, and God bless America.